This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This podcast is brought to you by TeamTrade, a digital solution that helps you hire, optimize, and retain employees. Using psychometric assessments to identify more than 100 professional mindset traits, it gives instant reports you can use to build high-performing teams. Get 2 free profiles today, no commitment, no credit card required, at teamtrait.com. TeamTrait.com. Welcome to the Manage Smarter podcast with hosts C. Lee Smith and Audrey Strong. We're glad you're here for discussions on new ways to manage smarter, hire, develop, and retain talent, improve results, and propel team performance to new heights. This is the Manage Smarter podcast.
Okay, Lee, let's say I'm a senior vice president for you, but I'm really feeling like, because we're called Manage Smarter, I really want to go in a different direction, but I know where I want to be, and then I'm not happy where I am, but I really don't know how to get where I'm going. And I may not even know what's particularly wrong with why I feel this way.
Are you trying to tell me something?
No, this is all hypothetical. Don't fire me. No, then that's what we're going to talk about today. We have an amazing PhD, psychologist, educator, and leadership person who's going to lead us through some of the steps in her book. We're going to tell you about the book to figure that out. And it takes a very serious topic, actually, because if you're tremendously unhappy, you need to do a lot of deep self-reflection. This is not a topic for sissies. I'll tell you that the more I read about it. So, Lee, what do you think?
Well, and the other thing is like, I mean, we moved offices recently, right? And it's like, and that was all about getting rid of stuff that we had compiled over 20 years of being in that office. And, you know, and then doing the same kind of thing at home. You know, I lost a significant amount of weight, and the clothes that I had, you know, built up in my wardrobe and my closet for 16 years, ended up having to give all those things away. So, and quite frankly, I found it quite liberating that, you know, I'm no longer holding on to this stuff that has provided no value to me or never will be providing me value in the future. And I kind of feel like that maybe that's a parallel topic to what we're going to hear about today.
Exactly. Welcome to Manage Smarter, everyone. We are so happy you're here listening and part of our wonderful audience. My name is Audrey Strong. I'm the Senior Vice President of Communications at SalesFuel.
For now, I guess.
For now.
And I'm C. Lee Smith. I am the CEO and founder of SalesFuel.
All right. Dr. Rosenna Bakari is a psychologist, educator, and leadership consultant who helps people and organizations make clear, confident decisions, especially when they feel stretched thin, stuck in patterns that no longer work, or unsure of what's next. Manage smarter, everyone. Who hasn't felt any of those 3 things if you're a professional? She believes that how we grow personally and directly shapes how we show up professionally. Her book is called 7 Exits, Leaving Behind What No Longer Serves You, and it guides readers to strengthen focus, decision-making, and emotional clarity so they can lead with presence, confidence, and sustain performance without running on fumes or even worse, I think, on autopilot.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Rosenna Bakari, thank you for coming today. What a great topic.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation and looking forward to the conversation.
So where did we start at the 10,000 foot level here before we get into the details of, you know, what is, for the people listening, what is the description of who needs to read this book? What am I feeling? And I know I need to read it. What's going on in my head?
Sure. So for people who feel accomplished, that's important because a lot of times we gear our work with the assumption that people don't feel good about themselves. And that's often not the case. Oftentimes what happens is the more accolades people get, the higher they get in getting what they want, the fewer invitations they get to heal and transform into what they may really want to be, need to be, or where they can be. So this is for that person. So when you get there and you're like, well, you second guess yourself because you're successful, right? And so when you say, well, I'm thinking about leaving my job, people go, why would you? You make so much money. Or you say, I want this, and people always tell you what you have as if that should be enough. So it stops you from developing your own clarity.
Okay, what about people like me whose issue is it's never enough, right? It's like, you lose 50 pounds, I want to lose 60 pounds. You make this much money, I want to make more money. Yeah, it's like, I'm going on this vacation, I want to go on a bigger vacation. So what about people like that?
Right. So it comes from the same positioning, right? Of you're right. There's a lack of something. So either you feel it or you're refusing yourself to feel it. But I don't know if that makes sense, but the feeling is the same. Either you're dumping into the feeling or you're numbing the feeling, but the feeling is still the feeling, this sense of lack. And you know that it comes from within. That's the thing. And that's why you don't get the invitations, because the invitations are external, the accolades are external, but you know that whatever the struggle is, that is coming from within. And people around you don't really know how to tap into that. So that's who the book is for. That's what the presentations are really geared toward. That thing inside of you that is calling, that you don't know how to access help for it around you.
A lot of us would tend to just push it away and bury it. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I want to go for the next level, whatever. So how do you get yourself to that vulnerable place where you look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and you say, okay, I have to listen to this and I need to do something. And
right.
Who do I go to besides reading your book? What do I do? How do I execute on this?
Finding groups, people, organizations who look like they're there. And all you can do is go on how people look like they're there. Because sometimes you go over to them, you're like, oh, you're not there at all. Right. But that's why I say the fewer invitations you get, because it's really difficult. So if you're in high level corporate America where it's about performance and you're going there trying to find people for transformation, if you're picking up your dates at a bar, you may not be looking for marriage material. It may be great for something, right? But if you really want marriage material, you find a different place to go to meet those places, to meet those people. And so it's similar when you feel that nudge inside you, you can start with books, but then you have to start looking for people who look like they may get it. Maybe it's the people that don't necessarily get invited to all the parties. Maybe it's the people who do something different with their weekends. Maybe it's the people who are having different conversations and maybe they're a little quieter in the room. So you have to begin to notice, right? So to notice when it's hard to acknowledge what's on the inside, sometimes the easiest way to get it is to start being more observant about what's happening outside and start like, okay, what out here kind of looks like what I might be feeling in here.
Yeah, I want to ask.
Just give yourself the permission to be more observant.
I want to ask about a couple of the exits that you talk about in the book, but it's like when you say, to find somebody that looks like they have it together or something like that, it got me thinking about another book that I've been reading called The Anxious Generation. And basically that book, to summarize it, maybe oversimplify it, it basically says the advent of the smartphone has actually damaged Gen Zs and some millennials. But that got me thinking about social media, about the humble bragging and everybody putting their best selves out there and make it looks like they have their act together. But it's like they do that because like these kids have been judged, and really ever since pretty much they could hold a smartphone, and everything they do is either, is somehow criticized or celebrated, online in front of other people. So they always have to be thinking about that. And, we never had to deal with that. But it's like, so how do you tell then if somebody really has their act together or someone is just basically presenting themselves in the best light then to for the judgment of other people. I mean, of course, the judgment of other people is its own topic, right? But like, still, how can you tell the difference?
By spending time and being observant. And that's why I say you have to train yourself and give yourself permission to be more observant. And here's the real important key. The important key is to be observant because you're trying to connect with what is inside of you, not to judge what they're doing. So even if you find that that person is, oh, that's totally disingenuous. And here's the interesting, tricky part. If you keep finding that, it's because it's in you.
Oh.
Well, she turned that around, Yanya, didn't she? No, out of the 7,
it's useful information.
Which of the 7 is the one that most people commonly resonate with? Let's start there because we can't do all 7, but which one is the one that would be most common that we can all talk about? I think
silence and secrecy tend to resonate with people because we all can identify some parts of ourselves that we keep holding back. What we are less likely to address is how much that impacts us and much less even than how to release that. But whether it's some baggage from our past, whether it's some fear of our future, like we can identify with our sense of silence and how that makes us feel small. We feel that. We can identify that. We just don't always know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about the exits. And so one of the things that we've recently done a study on is that nearly half of salespeople, but not only salespeople, but all professionals, say that they have quit a job because of them having a bad manager or a bad relationship with a manager or a manager that, basically somehow eroded their trust. So, if you have a situation like that, what's one exit from that old behavior that managers need to exit from, basically, to start rebuilding some psychological safety with their team?
Oh, that's huge. And for managers, they really need all 7 exits for the, the super manager and sensitive exit. And that's one of the reasons why the 7 exits make a superb lens for leadership, because it really talks about these are the 7 things that you as a leader have to put in place and lead your whole team out of. And you can't lead your team out of them if you're stuck in them, right? And so for a manager, the top one really can be about hyperego for many of them. But for some of them, it may be, I don't have the confidence to lead. So people make up their own boundaries and all that stuff because I don't really see myself as a leader. But for many of them, those controlling types is hyperego. But oftentimes we assume that hyperego is arrogance, and oftentimes is fear that comes up. And when
arrogance is a mask for fear.
Right. So, because that's certainly how people experience the arrogance. They don't experience the fear, but internally,
not confidence.
Exactly. And so getting managers to really identify hyperego. What are the ways that you're leading that are about performance instead of connection? And this idea that you have that it's working. One of the things that people in hyperego have a tendency to do is ignore data. They ignore.
Yeah, right.
And the older they are, the more experienced they are, or whatever, the more they feel like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, three of your direct reports left in the last year. Are you going to look at that? That's data, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Your sales have gone down. Admissions are lower. All this data, but when you are stuck in hyperego, you ignore the data.
So I want to clarify something. So when you said performance, are you talking about performance as far as the results of your team and the numbers? Or are you talking about performance as theater?
The performance as theater, my performance, not the company's performance, my performance, what I want you to think of me. And if I control you, that means that I control how you think of me, which is a misperception. but oftentimes what I'm operating on out of hyper ego. Ego is great. We all need ego. It's the hyper ego where we can't come out of performance, this idea that I'm manipulating how people see me or how I show up in the world is more significant than anything else.
All of this is really intersectional between your personal life and your professional life. And if ever there was an argument, Lee, that you've made for, you guys got to do more networking, the stagnant relationship portion of your book is one that I think is very important, because stagnant relationships in your personal life can cause problems, and obviously in your professional life. So talk a little bit about that advice that you have.
Sure.
That's a good one.
Thanks. And of course, the stagnant relationships, it hinges on all the others, right? I mean, stagnant relationships don't exist in a vacuum. Right. They don't. I mean, we like to think that stagnant relationships happen because one of those people is a bad person. That's rarely the case. It exists because people are operating in silence and secrecy or hyperego or that sort of stuff. But stagnant relationships, the idea is that we have a responsibility to ourselves to cultivate relationships that support what we want our lives to look like, as you say, at work and outside of work. And so when we ignore the contribution that relationships make to that work, then oftentimes we end up back in performance or back in manipulation or trying to have relationships according to defined roles instead of established connections. Relationships are about connections, not roles.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Aud.
So going back up to 10,000 feet, talking about these amazing concepts and trying to like wrap the point of view that you take is, it's really mind bending, because at work, I'm so external and interacting with everybody else, and I'm not really like thinking about myself. I want to service my other departments and my colleagues and my coworkers. But you're telling me, no, you need to service yourself. But applying all of this amazing knowledge, are we talking about I can apply it to if I desire a different position within my company? Or like Lee said, I'm now going to be a salmon fisherman in Seattle and I'm going a totally different direction with my life. Does it work across all changes that one might desire?
It does. It's a very flexible framework because it's about the individual and not about the office and not about partnership, and not because it is grounded in the individual, then it works across many, many domains. One of the reasons why I created this framework when I started my own practice, I was working at the individual level. And one of the things that became very clear to me in a short period of time is that as people begin to feel more empowered, they almost always got promotions, got better jobs, like it was so clear. And so I'm like, oh, this has something to do with the business world. This has something to do with how people are showing up. And it's really not necessarily that their people at work didn't change, which is what they thought needed to happen, right? But they changed. They showed up differently. And when you begin to show up differently, you just have more capacity.
Right. Lee, we got a few minutes left. I'll let you get the last question.
Oh my goodness! Already, that's a tough one.
Yeah, this has been great.
Well, I'm wondering if that can also apply to something more subtle. So it's not necessarily I want a new position, or I want to be a rice farmer in Japan or anything like that. But just something like, here's something that I want to change. A habit that I have that I want to stop doing, or here's something about my job I really love. The part where I get to talk to people and everything like that, but I don't like the writing part or something like that. Are there, so can these changes be more subtle, or can the exits actually be micro exits?
They can, right? So when you're talking about, I know I need to show up in the world differently. You read the book, you work through the exits, but it's not like a one and done, right? It's like, these are the things that I can that become my checks and balance for myself. And so the magic question, when you're stuck in any capacity, the magic question is, how am I getting in my own way? That's the magic question. I still have to ask that question. And so when I ask that question, then I can scan at, where's my ego at in this problem? Where's my ego at? Is there silence and secrecy around anything that has to do with this? Is indoctrination getting in my way? Am I tying this too much to passion and purpose? So then I can use that as a backdrop. But the magic question is, how am I getting in my own way? Which is very different, because in the past, I know before my own healing journey, the question was, who's in my way?
Mm-hmm.
Who's in my way?
Or it's about luck, or it's about
much
fate.
easier to blame somebody else. Are you kidding me? That's easy. I mean,
Yeah, and Audrey, this is a good example of another lesson, whether it be for leaders, managers, salespeople, everything like that. I mean, when she said the magic question, right, that's at the end of the show. And sometimes what that means is the best information comes at the end of a question or at the end of an interview or anything like that. So it's really important to listen all the way through, not just to listen and then tune out or to be processing what the person is saying, but to actually truly listen all the way through, because this is a great example where that money question being right at the end just shows you that sometimes the best stuff's at the end.
Well, the best stuff is on our website. It's transformation.7exits, and you have to spell out the word 7, everyone, .com. And you got a little store in there. Congratulations on the book. It's such a pleasure to meet you, and I'm so grateful you came today. It's fascinating.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and investment. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information at salesfuel.com.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now. You call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time, 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.